All right, this is the Guys with Beards podcast. I'm Sean.
I'm Alex.
David.
And Kyle.
All right, so this time we're going to be talking about Bethesda and Obsidian games.
Mm-hmm. A very somewhat controversial topic at the moment.
Why is that?
Well, you know, we'll get into it later with Fallout 76, but I think we should start off with the good before the bad, right?
Right, but the reason why I want to talk about these games is because there's some of my personal favorite games, like ever, especially Bethesda games and especially Obsidian games.
You've had an interesting history with them. You've played like most of their games, at least Obsidian.
Definitely,
yeah.
And Bethesda for sure. You guys have too.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'd say I've played more Bethesda than I have Obsidian, at least in recent years. I can't remember, besides Stick of Truth, the last Obsidian game I played besides Outer Worlds. But I feel like you don't... It's very easy for like an Obsidian game to fall under the radar.
So, Sean, why don't you name some Obsidian games so people that don't know can get an idea?
Well, Obsidian, they came from people that were from Black Isle Studios that made kind of the original Fallout games and stuff like that. And they were kind of this company that were kind of like the underdogs. They did the sequels to games that people loved, like Knights of the Old Republic. They made Knights of the Old Republic 2. They made Fallout New Vegas, the sequel to Fallout 3, even though Black Isle Studios made Fallout 1 and 2 and shit like that. So
some of the developers carried over.
Yeah, some of the developers carried over. But they're kind of known as like the sequel company, especially with Neverwinter Nights 2 and games like that. So they're kind of like the underdogs to Bethesda's like greatness as the 3D first-person shooter kind of open-world exploration games, RPG games. Yeah. So that's kind of my thing about Obsidian. And I guess my favorite Obsidian game of all time would be Fallout New Vegas.
Oh, I mean, I think that's probably everybody, like a lot of people.
It's their magnum opus, probably.
And I was kind of hoping that Outer Worlds would beat that. And in my opinion, I'll put it out there that I don't think it did. But I think one of the reasons why was because Outer Worlds had a much lesser budget and was a much...
Yeah, I think that played a big part. It
wasn't
as funded.
It was considered as a AA game instead of a AAA game.
What's the company that picked it up? Because I know the company that picked up...
Private Division,
that's what it is.
They published it.
Yeah. I mean, but still for the budget that they had, they made an amazing game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great game.
It's a very rare these days to see a game that's the complete package without transactions outside of that.
And which is hilarious because that's what kind of Bethesda used to stand for.
But now it's what it's become.
They had that whole campaign about how, single-player games.
Yeah, which is really unfortunate.
Kind of a meme question, but do you think Todd Howard is, like, doing this on purpose, or do you think, like...
Oh, it's not Todd Howard.
Yeah, I looked into it a little bit, and it's because Bethesda, they're owned by, like, ZeniMax Studios.
Yeah.
And it looks like there might have been some pushing, but in my opinion... No matter what the higher-ups are telling you, to produce Fallout 76 knowingly and give it to the fans, the people that love your games, is screwed up.
Not a game. It's not a game.
It's an unfinished game. It's a money grab. It's not.
And it's getting worse every week.
It's not a piece of art.
It's getting worse every week.
Yeah, what just happened?
Oh God. So the most recent thing that happened is that most games have like an online map, let's say like Red Dead 2, that you can look at the map of the world, see where items are marked at, like collectibles and stuff like that.
Right.
Well, the guy who was doing that for Fallout 76, he took it down because they screwed him out of his money. They told him that he couldn't have it up because it's not licensed through the company, I guess. And they're just screwing over their most loyal fans.
Dude, it feels like every week. I didn't even hear about this, but it feels like every week
there's a new
update.
Did
something else to piss people off.
Either it's like Fallout First, which is a complete muddled piece of crap.
That's the $100 a year.
It's $100
by the way, those private servers aren't complete.
Yeah,
they're recycling the servers. So let's say you pay that $100 and you get a server. A lot of things are already looted. Half the NPCs are already dead.
That's insane.
And that's what people are spending $100 on, is a broken server. It's horrifying.
Comparatively to Minecraft Realms, where you pay like $8 a month for a server, right? So 8 times 12. That's
Did you get that?
I did, and it was awesome.
You like it?
You could have up to like 8 people play with you, right? And then you could have many custom games as you want. And you can actually have more people in the realm, but only 8 people can be on the map at a time.
How much was that?
$7 a month, I believe.
And if I'm getting a broken server for $7, I'd be mad, but I wouldn't feel as mad if I spent $100 on a broken server. I don't know. It's just unacceptable.
$8 a month. Yeah.
$8 a month. Yeah. So that's, I mean, and I played with it like
now it's supporting up to 11 concurrent players.
And there you go.
that's amazing. That's
And it's on Switch and it's on PC.
It's on Switch. Yeah.
so
amazing.
Cool.
if each person in that server paid like $1, it's $12 a year for your own server, and that's ridiculous. And comparatively to the $100, I mean, of course you could probably chip in with that $100, but who's gonna do that? That is
Yeah.
actually insane for a
I'll
game.
be honest, I haven't played Fallout 76.
Neither have I. And I don't want to. After seeing all this stuff about it, it's a waste of money.
I mean, to be fair, you could probably get a lot of like mileage out of that game. I've seen some like a lot of like user friendly creator content kind of thing.
The problem is, at this point, it's a sinking ship they're trying to save.
Yeah,
and they're trying
but
to
that's the-
squeeze every little bit of
yeah,
money out of
the
it, which is what
diehard
Fallout First
fans.
is.
Like, what
and
can
they're
you-
screwing those fans.
What can you say about the game when the player created content is better than the original content?
Exactly.
But that was kind of Bethesda's thing. Is
That's
that,
the
like,
Bethesda's
Yeah,
norm.
that is fair. That's fair.
But-
That is fair because Skyrim was, although like when it came out, was like knocked everyone's socks off.
Yeah.
Later, it becomes pretty much unplayable until you get the mods.
But that's
So,
fine. It's because Skyrim started off as
To
a
some
good
people.
product. And that's the difference. Is Skyrim was at its base a good product that everybody could play through. You had a pretty decent time.
Okay, to be honest, when you look back at Skyrim, you can
It's not a
criticize
perfect
it,
game.
but I love that game.
You
Exactly.
can criticize
I
it
love
only because
Skyrim.
time has progressed and games have just naturally gotten better.
Of course, yeah. And obviously, when things like mods come in that can make the game better, you're gonna like it more.
There's
because
a
of that.
reason why Skyrim is still coming out on systems. Like there's a reason why Minecraft.
David here
There's a
can attest
reason
to
why.
that.
Excuse me. There's a reason why Skyrim's coming out for your
There's a
Samsung fridge.
part of me that I wanted to buy Skyrim for the Switch. I didn't, but there's a part of me that
Oh, there's
wanted
always
to.
that draw. It's like I can have it on the Switch, but that's like the 8th console I'm buying it on.
There's
you know?
something about 2011 games that I really like to play. I like Skyrim and I like Minecraft. And I bought. I think I actually I bought it on PS3. I bought it on Xbox 360. I bought it on Switch. I bought it on my phone. So that's
It's gonna be like 300
and PC. So that's
like,
$5.
It's be like $300 between Skyrim and Minecraft across those systems.
Don't even at me.
Oh my God.
I had to buy
Don't
Skyrim on PC for the mods.
Oh, of course. I later got it when I got mods.
I had so much fun on it on the 360.
I unfortunately played it first when it was really broken on
first-
PS3, but
PS3 version
I
sucked.
played it on the Xbox 360 when it came out. I got turned on to it because of Tobuscus.
oh God.
Oh yeah, that was an old one. I turned on to it because of Tobuscus, and some of my best moments of just gaming in general come from it. Because me and my dad had one Xbox 360
Yeah, I think you
between,
were talking
between the
about
two
this,
of us.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We had one between the two of us, so we take turns watching each other play and letting the other one play, and we just pass off back and forth. And it was like some of
Exactly.
the greatest shit
I
ever.
remember we came over to your house to play D&D one night, and it was your dad just sitting there playing
In
Skyrim.
Helgen.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
slashing the
Yes.
character in the beginning, just leveling his sword.
My dad's a
up.
maniac.
a
He would
pro gamer
leave
strat.
Helgen like level 80.
But at that point, I did not. I was like,
Respect.
dude, what are you doing? How is this fun?
Optimizing, that's
How
what
is this
he's
fun?
It's a man who knows what he wants.
And then
in the game.
but then I got Skyrim for PC. He started playing that, and then I told him about the world of mods, and like I shit you not, for like at least like 3 months after that, every week he was like, "Hey Alex, can you get this mod for me? I found this really cool mod that I want." So I downloaded
Shout
the
out to
mod for him,
Alex's dad.
and then I did something even worse. I taught him how to use the command console.
Oh God.
Oh.
Yeah.
So he would just like, why the fuck would I like actually grind this shit out when I can just like
spawn it
type it
in.
in and have it? I showed him
that
the,
just takes out the fun of the game.
well, the
Well,
thing
for
is,
some people it
my dad personally, he's an old fashioned dude. He read all the old Warhammer books,
Oh, yeah.
Drizzt Do'Urden
Oh, the gamer
series,
guides.
the whole spiel, Beowulf, all that. He loved it. So like for him, making characters was just role playing, and he wanted to make characters for the sake of role playing. And I think Skyrim was a good game to start
it's
to be able to do that.
super
With.
sandbox.
You remember
of
talking? You
mods.
remember talking to your other friends and like, oh yeah, I made this fictional character in
Yeah.
Skyrim.
Yeah,
You know
exactly.
what I mean? Like,
And that was the pull of Bethesda games.
yeah.
Was, you're not. It's not a multiplayer experience necessarily, but it's a single player experience that you can share with your friends because it's a completely different thing for someone else. But that was the good.
I think out of all the games I've played in my life, my 21 years on this planet, people say, "Oh, I put like hundreds of thousands of hours in this game," and I actually have put months into Skyrim.
Yes, he has. I can attest to that.
And
Do you have proof of how many hours you've spent?
I can probably get it off the PC. I don't
should.
know about
At
Xbox
some point we
360.
definitely need to. I
Let's
need to
put
see
that
those
in the
stats.
You can plug in your 360 and see how many hours you have.
Hell, we can even edit it in.
Yeah, let's put that in the description.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I want to put that in there too because I think my dad count on Skyrim PC hours is like over 500 right now.
We'll get a count for everybody.
Yeah.
How about that?
And
So let's
dad's
put it-
included.
actually ridiculous.
But what about before Skyrim?
Oblivion is
Oblivion.
also a really great
beautiful.
game.
I didn't play it till after I played Skyrim, so I think I had more expectations going into it, which I definitely shouldn't have had because it's a different era, for sure. But it doesn't devalue that Oblivion's an amazing game.
Oblivion came out around the same time as Fallout 3. I think it was 2 years before. And
Let's check that. No, let's get
yeah,
it.
I think it was
Get the date on it.
2006. I'm pretty sure.
Let's see.
That sounds right.
It was
but
one of the
let's
first
check.
titles on Xbox
Oblivion.
360 and PS3.
Yeah.
Oblivion.
Release.
And
March 20th, 2006 was
Hey, there you
Oblivion,
go.
and Fallout. Which one? 3?
2008.
What?
2007 or
Fallout
2008 was.
Fallout 3.
Yeah.
I thought it was 2007.
Yeah, it's
But
one of
it's
the two.
2008.
Okay.
Yeah. I played both of those games. And like the beginning of those games are so memorable.
Oh, yes,
Escaping the jail in Oblivion. The character creation in Oblivion is probably the best out of all the Elder Scrolls.
What?
The character creation in Oblivion was so funny. You could actually
play.
make the guy's nose like.
Oh, you're
actually-
talking about the model creation.
Yes,
Yeah.
the model creation.
What about the actual RPG character creation?
I think it was better. You could actually level up in actual fighting, unlike Skyrim, where they like tore down like a bunch of the skills trees.
There was
and-
some really stupid stuff with Oblivion, like the acrobatic skill, where you just
yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
You
true.
gotta run.
But that adds more to the game, instead of like Skyrim where it was very bare bones with your skills, it was like lockpick stuff.
I think when you're thinking about improving your acrobatics in real life, running more and jumping more would improve your
Doesn't work in a
acrobatics.
video game.
Not in a video game, though, yeah.
GTA 5 did something similar with that, with your playable characters.
Yeah, I remember that too. I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, for the online.
Yeah.
Are you talking about-
No, it was in the
It was a
single player
stat.
as well.
It was a stat.
Yeah,
I
you
can't
could just.
remember.
I think it was just
running.
stamina. I'm pretty
It was
sure.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the biggest switches you'll see from Oblivion to Skyrim with character creation is with Oblivion, you're not necessarily locked into what you choose from the beginning, but you're definitely much more into a role.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
But with Skyrim, there's no such thing as a class.
No,
The
absolutely not.
idea of a class, like the whole archaic, D&D sort of the thing that's inbred with video games for so many years and RPGs, the class system is thrown out the window
Yeah.
in Skyrim.
I definitely see where that like delineates from you could say the structure of what's popular and what's good, but at the same time, for some people, it might have been refreshing.
I think that's why
It feels
it was
sometimes
so,
it feels a little constricting to just be like, I'm forced to be this class.
Mm-hmm.
You know
That's
what
why
I
it was
mean?
so widely popular.
Yeah,
I think
like,
it's just so accessible.
People that played FIFA and Madden, there's those casual gamers. They know what Skyrim is.
Oh, yeah.
That's why it's selling so well. It's like FIFA, Madden, and Skyrim. Like it's a pretty ridiculous selling game. Like I think it's one of the best single player games sold. If we could look that up, maybe.
It's probably got crazy high
I
sales.
doubt that. We'll see.
I don't know. It's sold on
one thing
multiple
you'll see about
consoles.
Skyrim is I agree with you. There was definitely a decision made in Bethesda to make Skyrim more accessible to
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
But it's a good and a bad thing. It makes everyone enjoy the game more. But Obsidian,
For the people that love
Oblivion.
Yeah, for the people that loved Oblivion, it probably took them out a little bit.
And I think that was the downfall of Bethesda was Skyrim.
I disagree.
I think that it started there.
also arguably could have been their magnum opus. And
That's
I'm not
interesting,
saying that
yeah.
I think that, but I'm saying that is a definitely solid argument that Skyrim was their magnum opus. Then right after Skyrim, they went into Fallout 4, which is
We'll get there.
we'll get. I
be
don't
fair,
I don't even want to start talking about the game because it's so gross. and
Bethesda's had a lot of
disgusting.
problems even before Fallout 76. It's just that everybody's like so much like Skyrim that stuff got overshadowed.
Yeah.
They have a history of
Well,
screwing
the
over their
problem is-
players.
This is kind of the widely known opinion now, is that the glitches of Bethesda, which were
Yes.
seen as like funny jokes and
Yes.
stuff,
Are not funny anymore.
They're not funny because-
in every game.
They've been
because
coasting on unfinished games that they ask their players to finish.
because there was greatness to these games.
Yeah.
But then they completely threw it out the window with Fallout 76 with no greatness, and kind of with Fallout 4 too. But
So it's kind of hard to find a single player list of games, but
Yeah,
I have
this
the
isn't
best list
single
of
player.
all time of not all, but the most selling just games of all time, and technically the top selling
Minecraft.
single player game is Tetris.
or we also have Super Mario Bros.
Super Mario Bros.
Pokemon Red, Green, Blue, Yellow. That makes sense.
Let's see what else.
What was-
Skyrim is actually on here. It's number of just
Well,
selling games
it
of all
doesn't
time. 1, 2,
surprise
3,
me.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11,
I mean,
12,
once-
13th best-selling game of all time.
Once they saw that
that's
it was
pretty crazy.
selling so
But
well,
you
why
can
not
attest
release
that
it?
to the fact that they release it for every goddamn device on the
Yes,
planet.
that definitely helps.
Okay.
Diablo 3 is right under
Diablo
that.
3 is
That's
under it.
interesting.
That's
And
pretty
Pokemon Gold, Silver, Duck Hunt, We Play,
And
interesting.
Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Terraria.
it's that.
Huh.
That's my
Red Dead
biggest
2,
gripe
wow.
with
Red Dead
Bethesda
2 already.
is that Bethesda has a history of releasing games that aren't finished, and they get away with it. And Fallout 76 is the first game that they have done like that, and they have not gotten away with
Fallout
it.
4 was, I would say, arguably was.
It had so
that.
many problems at launch. Does anybody remember that? How many bugs there were in Fallout 4 initially?
It was pretty buggy. There was a
It was
huge
it was
one day
crazy
one patch.
bad.
I want to get a little personal here if we're
Sure.
talking about Fallout.
Oh, for it.
I have a wallet.
The
that says
Nuka-Cola
Nuka-Cola on
wallet.
it
Oh,
that
yeah.
David right here got me for my 21st birthday, or was it 20th? Either one of them, but you got me it, and I've had it since, and I love Fallout. It's one of my favorite video game series of all time. It's one of my
Absolutely.
favorite fictional series of all time, and Fallout 4 was probably my most anticipated video game of all time. And when I was playing it, I anticipated it so much, so I loved it. I was playing it, and I was like, "This game is
Kind of like the
this game
rose-tinted
is
glasses
great."
at the beginning.
But then I started to realize, like, kind of on a second playthrough, like, wait a second,
not great.
my choices don't matter. Every single dialogue option leads to the same
dialogue is
thing.
so
The
bad.
thing that I loved Fallout 4 isn't here. This is just basically like
A first-person
good.
shooter.
It's a first-person shooter. I'm like, yeah, that's fun. Like, I like
With
that.
settlements.
But this isn't why I like this series, and
No.
it didn't feel like a Fallout game
Absolutely
anymore.
not. It was just broken at launch.
And
we were all at the midnight release.
I had that keychain
I
for
want a
like
t-shirt.
3 years,
Me too, yeah.
man. The freaking
I want a
lanyard.
T-shirt. I still wear that T-shirt every now and then.
I have the Pip-Boy lanyard attachment
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So
And I played Fallout 1. I played Fallout 2. I played
Yeah.
Fallout 3. I played Fallout 4. I played Fallout New Vegas.
Fallout
I love this
Shelter.
series.
So actually, I played Fallout
yeah.
Shelter.
I don't
That's
really like
alright.
it that
It's a
much.
mobile game. So
But
Yeah.
right
I didn't
now.
play Brotherhood of Steel.
I haven't played that. No.
Yeah, no one really has. It's kind of actually a horrible game. But
oof.
No surprise there, though.
yeah, I mean Fallout's kind of dead. I'm going to be honest with it. Like, Outer Worlds
sucks.
really showed me that Fallout is dead.
Yes.
And Outer Worlds is the spiritual successor to what Fallout was.
Absolutely.
To relate it to like another series, it's kind of like the Solid Snake series.
Metal Gear Solid Snakes. Metal Gear Solid.
Sorry, I didn't play the games, but like you can see with Metal Gear Survive, like how it's kind. You can see the similarities between Fallout 76 and Metal Gear Survive.
Metal Gear Survive is just like a spin-off game.
But that's what I'm saying. But you can
No,
see
it's a direct insult to what Metal Gear is.
Exactly.
I'm sorry.
Right, but
so is 76.
It was
Fallout
marketed
76.
as like a spin-off game, and Fallout 4 was like supposed to be it's called Fallout 4. It's supposed to be the fourth Fallout game. It's supposed to be direct continuation, and it's nothing that Fallout was about.
Yeah, I
Fallout
agree.
1 and 2.
Had none of the spirit of Fallout.
If you ask
at
the
all.
creators of Fallout 1 and 2, what is Fallout about? They say we want to explore morality in an apocalyptic setting.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
what these games are about. Not shooting shit well, not settlements. That's not what these games
Yeah.
are about. In Fallout 3, you can complain about it all that time, but at least Bethesda at this point, which is interesting, is that they
the
incorporated
last
that.
good Fallout game.
They
Fallout 3.
Fallout New Vegas. What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
New Vegas.
Bethesda's, not
Okay,
Obsidian.
fine, sure. But
I'm talking about two different monsters here.
Fallout 3, you can shit talk it all you want, but that's a good fucking game.
I had a great time playing
That's
Fallout
a good
3.
fucking
I played
game.
that game a lot
It
of
explores
times.
morality decently well. Not very deep. It's very like wrong and
It's
right.
a little bit surface level. It's kind of black and
Yeah.
white.
And New Vegas is all about morality and gray
Yes.
and stuff, which is cool. It's
and
probably,
Matthew Perry from Friends.
Oh yeah, he does play. He does play Benny.
Nice.
He plays Benny, I believe.
He did a good job. That was
Yeah.
really surprising when I found that out for the first time.
But now that we're on the topic of New Vegas and morality, it really is the most gray game because the faction system.
Oh
I
my
think
god, yes.
some of the best factions in any video game I've ever seen. The NCR, the representation of democracy.
Caesar's Legion.
Caesar's Legion, which if you play through a game, you're like,
Oh, yeah.
these people are evil. They believe in slavery. They have this dictator named Caesar. But my favorite part of the game is when you walk up to Caesar and you're like, what the hell's going on? Like, why do you believe this? And he's this towering intellectual, this man of philosophy who's like, listen, the NCR is a thesis, and Caesar's Legion is the antithesis. And when these factions go together, we're going to create a synthesis. which is a good way to describe Hegelian philosophy. And he's talking about this. He mentions Hegel like he's this. It's so deep. It's so great, and it's like it's just such a morally gray game where you can still argue about which was the right choice.
Yeah.
NCR, Caesar's Legion, Mr. House, the enigmatic, libertarian, autocratic, you know, fascinating
That's who I went
figure.
through on my first playthrough was Mr. House.
Or just independent.
Also true. Yep.
Let New Vegas be
And
ruled by anarchy. Maybe that's the best solution.
It's very obvious at this point that Obsidian understands what a Fallout type game needs to be. Not necessarily what Fallout is anymore, because, like you said, Fallout's dying, and I really hate saying that.
I mean,
It's kind of been. I think once Fallout Shelter happened, dude, that was when right around the same time as Fallout 4, and it was going downhill from there.
Really quick, can we talk about Fallout 3? Like, I know we're circling around because
No,
we're talking about the changes. Fallout 1 and Fallout 2 weren't first-person shooters.
No.
Nope. I think 3 was experimenting with that concept, of
I
adding a
wouldn't
first.
say it was experimenting. That was Bethesda. Like, Fallout didn't have the money, so they bought it, and they were like, "Hey, we're making Fallout 3 now. We're putting a first-person shooter spin on it."
I also feel that makes it more appealing to a larger crowd when you do something like
Especially
that.
at the time.
Especially
Yeah.
that's when Call of Duty was extremely popular. Not that it isn't anymore.
But it's not like they like went to the creators of Fallout 1 and 2 and were like, "Hey, can you help us create this game?"
No,
They straight up just made the game. And the creators of Fallout 1 and 2, like the main directors, they will say that like they did pay attention to lore a little bit.
Yes, and that's so important. Is that you
know.
can tell the care and the detail that went into the worlds in like 1, 2, and even 3 is completely different from 4.
Although there were some weird things in Fallout 3, like the Brotherhood of Steel was this like
It's always been weird.
The Brotherhood of Steel is supposed to be the faction of like they're supposed to be these people that market themselves as like these protectors of technology.
But they're hoarding all the technology for themselves.
Yeah, they hoard all the technology. But in actuality, like you kind of look at them as raiders from an outside view. But Fallout 3 was like, no, the Brotherhood of Steel are these great people patrolling the wastes and saving everybody. And I was like, that's not what this faction is about. And then in 4, they just made them into
hunters.
They made them into like
so weird.
Nazis.
Yeah,
essentially basically Nazis.
Who was the leader? Maxwell.
Yeah,
that was such a mess.
Fallout 4 was a mess, and they tried to copy the New Vegas factions, and like they're not deep
Does
at all.
anyone remember the Railroad? Almost no one.
I actually chose the Railroad.
Really?
Yeah, because I thought it was like the most cool faction.
But I think it's...
yeah.
See, that's what I mean. It's very forgettable. It's very forgettable. It's because it's, in my opinion, it's not great writing.
How do you feel about the Institute?
No.
What I didn't like about the Institute is when I was talking about like Caesar, when you go to his tent and you're like everyone in this world hates you. Why are you the way that you are?
Yeah.
And he dissects his entire faction into his philosophical beliefs. When you ask the leader of the Institute, Sean, what his beliefs are, he says they're too complicated for you to understand.
Yep.
Are you serious?
And the innate problem with the Institute is the main character, the character you're playing. Is because they give you a backstory going into Fallout 4. You are a soldier, you have a family, you have a kid. What? That's not player choice. It's not player choice. They took away
motivation. I'm going to play devil's advocate. I think they're just trying to give the player a motivation.
I think that they're treating their audience like it's dumb.
Here's my argument against your argument there. When you give the players motivation, the problem is, especially with Bethesda games, is you're supposed to create your own motivation.
Exactly. I totally agree. Exactly. I totally agree.
Which is why Fallout 4 didn't work. It's like you have all these quests, like you have to go save your son, but
you're not playing your own character.
I want to actually go shoot this shit.
And I totally believe that creativity lies within restriction, but I feel like Bethesda was choking us with that game.
Yeah. And I want to compare directly the beginning of Fallout 4 and Outer Worlds.
Sure.
Outer Worlds, you're just some random colonist.
I love the beginning of Outer Worlds.
As you're picking your character, Wells is like, oh, you're like really like weird, like you're oddly charismatic. I'm surprised you don't have more brain damage or something like that.
Yeah.
But in Fallout 4, it's let's get ready for the show, kids. Like what?
Outer Worlds.
I'm not here to watch a movie.
You stand in the mirror and you're like,
it's such a mess.
The one thing I do want to say about Outer Worlds is that it was second best-selling game of November. Underneath the Modern Warfare.
Well, that's Call of Duty.
But that's really impressive for a single-player game to be...
With that little funding.
Yeah. And I think everyone should play it. Everyone should get Xbox Live Game Pass and give it a shot. It's a very accessible game with a really complex narrative, but it's enough that you can, if you spend time in the universe that Obsidian has created, you will fall in love. The music for the game is fantastic.
It's been a while since I've had a game that I lose hours in.
Yeah.
You know? And Outer Worlds was that game for me. That's why I fell in love with it.
It's also
instantly.
one of those games where I really felt like I had the creativity to make up a backstory for my character.
Exactly.
Like you really can make up whatever backstory what you
know what
want,
we should
and
do?
it's so consistent.
Real quick, we
What?
should compare the characters
Oh,
us three made.
Oh,
Real quick,
Okay.
just on a personality
Sure.
level
So
and, morality.
What character did you make?
All right. Well, I made a guy called Dingo Wong Wop. My initial concept for this guy came from a space pirate, and well, the whole backstory I came up with him for is that like he killed a colonist to get on the ship, and then he became a jerk, and then this doesn't spoil anything for the end. At the end of the story, my guy ate a box of purple berry crunch, and that's how the story ended. Because my guy
That's
was
the end of the story.
for my guy.
Wow.
He ate a box of purple berry crunch because he's dumb, and that's how I wanted my character to be played. And I was completely satisfied with that.
It's perfect. David, what kind of character did you create?
Before the game came out, you guys were like, "Oh, I want to make this character." I had no idea what I wanted to make, and then I got to the character creation screen, and it was actually pretty good. I think it was pretty good for there wasn't a lot of options, but there was enough to make me okay. Let me actually think about this.
I love it. I think it's one of the best character creation screens ever.
So I really wanted to play the game. I was up at midnight, ready to play it. So I just named my character David. But as I slowly developed my
you were
character,
worse than I was, honestly.
Yes, and the fact that you can kill anybody in this game,
He's
that
an
was
animal, dude. He did stuff I didn't do, and I'm a freaking
So
space
the
pirate. Like,
I'll say some things, but the first companion you get is Pavarotti. And,
which is not a spoiler.
and
You meet her early on.
you guys were like, oh, she's awesome. She has an interesting
great.
backstory.
Great story.
I looked at them. I said, I killed her.
I was like,
Yeah,
what?
I was like, wait, you killed her?
I killed everyone in the first town because I was like, I see no option out of this.
Also, the decision they gave in the first town, I don't want to spoil it, but it's probably one of my favorite decisions in
It
the
defines
game.
the rest of the game.
That's how I like. That's I was like, I wonder how the story's gonna be, and like actually learning of like what's going on with the board and people that are outside the board, and then there's the marauders. It's so interesting just to learn everything at a deep
I
level.
will say, just to be a little critical, I was a little disappointed with the board faction, especially coming from Obsidian, because even though I could talk on New Vegas, I did talk about New Vegas, but also like Tyranny, if anybody's played that game, it's like a top-down, kind of like more D&D RPG game, like
Civilization? Or
no, not at all.
like
It's more,
Civilization,
like
no.
Baldur's Gate.
Oh, okay.
So like Click, it's supposed to represent D&D, right, in video
Okay.
game format.
Mhm.
But in Tyranny, you had like the two factions and the Scarlet Chorus and like I came to a lot to expect like great faction development from Obsidian, and I felt like the board was not as developed as it should have been.
It was built up to be a lot more than it ended up being. But my main point I want to talk about earlier is that first choice you have to make in the first town, I think it
Right.
sets the tone for the rest of the game. You know?
Sure.
So it's a good argument that you brought up about that the factions in Outer Worlds aren't as strong. Were they supposed to be? Was the board supposed to be a very easy metaphor for something that relates in real life, and it's supposed to make them look weak, comparatively to you who creates your own story and you're not controlled by commercialism.
I mean, it's definitely a criticism on like bureaucracy.
I guess now that you mention it, I guess I'm being critical because I'm comparing the board as a faction to Obsidian's past,
yeah.
but maybe in a different
I think it's supposed to be a little
aspect.
more commentary because like the biggest thing is every form has a form. Like a paperwork has paperwork to do the paperwork for. It's very political. It's very overly political.
I was just
but that's the
hoping to
point.
see better justification to side with the board.
That's fair. And I didn't fully play
They
into
don't
that.
give you
I was
some-
swinging back and forth the whole time between factions.
You kind of like can we talk about spoilers? We can edit this out later. We can put like a big spoiler thing,
Let's save it for another video.
I guess. All right.
Let's talk about it later.
There's so many things that
I definitely agree. But
let's
that should be
talk
another
about an
video.
Outer World spoiler discussion later.
Yeah.
We'll advertise it. We'll put it out later.
I
You
think we
guys
should-
can look
I want
forward
to focus
that.
more on like the progression of Bethesda
Okay.
Yeah,
like,
I would love to
it
talk
be-
about Outer Worlds spoilers for hours.
Trust
but
me.
Anyway, I'll finish up on that. I will talk about the character I created just real quick.
Yeah,
to
Oh yeah,
finish up
sorry.
on Outer Worlds. I just created kind of like this guy who was a kleptomaniac, who tried to be like a guy who worked in a pharmacy, to steal drugs and stuff. But then he was kind of like a utilitarian, like deep down he had a good heart, and he tried to make always the best decisions for the greatest amount of people. He didn't really care about like the individual. He tried to like do what was best for the group. And that's how I played the entire game, is kind of this medical pharmacy guy with an obsession with stealing. With a great moral grounding for the best people, but not always for the individual.
And it's such a cool thing about Outer Worlds.
That lets you do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a very small thing that I really, really love with Obsidian does with dialogue is that when you get into games like that, sometimes you'll explore, like you'll find a mission or like a new quest to go on just by getting that extra piece of dialogue that maybe you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Because my guy was dumb as crap. He had almost dumb options for almost every conversation. And I think, like, honestly, I got to a lot of missions really quick because of that happened. But, like, it lets you explore as much as you want. It rewards you for, like, caring about the world you're in, you know?
Right.
The last thing, and we can move on to the Bethesda. I hope there's DLC for Outer Worlds.
Oh,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. I really hope more planets. More planets.
Yeah, that'd be
Yes.
cool.
Planet. Sorry, one more last thing. Planets are beautiful. The environments are great.
One last thing. No, I'm just kidding.
So one thing we haven't mentioned about Bethesda is Morrowind. We haven't talked about Morrowind yet. And everyone
I haven't played
compares
too
this
much of it,
as
personally.
everyone thinks that not everyone, sorry. A lot of people think that this is actually Bethesda's magnum opus.
I could see it.
Morrowind.
You could you comparatively to Skyrim, where like the marker is always at top.
Yeah.
Morrowind didn't have that.
There's no map
You
marker.
actually had to look at your map.
You had
and
to
find where to go.
It wasn't just looking at the map. You had to read your journal.
Yeah.
And like you listen to the dialogue people say, they're like, well, it's this weird cave in this region where you have to cross here and turn right and then look for the signpost and turn left, and you actually have to do that. And it creates a deeper level of immersion and deepness in the game that is totally missing in Skyrim and Oblivion.
And I think that a larger crowd, it's lost around crowds today.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's more commercial, you know?
I'm not trying to overgeneralize, but it definitely is making the game way more stupid.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I think if Bethesda took that and applied it to their other games where you can turn it on and off, I think it would be insanely popular.
Hold
That would
on.
be nice.
I
Turning off the
don't
HUD?
think you can play Skyrim without the.
You can turn off the
you-
HUD. I'm
you
pretty
can't-
sure.
No,
With
I don't
mods,
mean.
you
I don't
can.
mean mechanically. I actually do mean mechanically. Like it's a horrible game without the map marker.
Yeah, that's
Because
fair.
the game is completely built around the map marker.
Yeah.
Because the quests don't give you any indication of where you're supposed
No,
to go.
I used to play the game without
Are you serious?
fast travel. I never
but
used the
fast
fast
travel,
travel.
that's
Yeah,
another
but yes, that's
concept.
very true. But I also looked at the signs, and it does say like where Helgen. It does say where
It gives you
Winterfell.
directions, and
yeah.
it does say in your quest descriptions where to go.
Yeah, it says the
specifically.
city, and like you can find out.
Okay, maybe that's just my like assumption, but
The dialogue is less,
It's less important. It's
less important.
the
You're not going to listen to the
forefront.
NPCs about go this way and this way. No, you're like, let me finish talking to you so I can go and do the quest,
I just remember so many quests in Skyrim where it's like, you need to go clear out this bandit camp.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then they just put the map marker on
And
it.
I do
they
agree.
don't tell you where it
they
is.
definitely do that for some of the missions, but, at some point there are like 100 caves in Skyrim that have random like Smuggler's Den 1,
Yeah.
And like they don't give you directions every time because there is the map marker. And
Okay.
not that I honestly, it's easier to do it that way, but it's not lost upon me how much fun it would be to just have directions to go somewhere.
Maybe I need to play Skyrim without the map marker. I actually don't. I feel like that's not too important.
Yeah.
People are actually saying that like they feel way more immersed with taking off the HUD.
I
agree.
I agree. I'm just saying that Skyrim is not built around it. Morrowind is.
Yeah.
I honestly, I don't know how to feel about map markers in games in general because, like, if you take them out, games would be much harder. But I love a game without a map marker personally.
And that's a huge point, is that in Skyrim, it becomes about where you're going, not how long it takes to get there and what it takes to get there.
Right.
You enjoy the journey in something like Morrowind. You enjoy finishing the quest, I would say, equally more because it took so long to get there. You spent so much time reading over your journal and, where the hell is this one right turn I missed?
Okay.
Yeah, I totally agree. And to go off Kyle's point, like, I don't know how much I would enjoy a game with or without.
Yeah.
Going to Bleaks Falls Barrow for the first time it's pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's
a fun
genuinely
dungeon.
a fun time,
Yeah, you
even
gotta
with the
climb this
marker.
mountain, you
Yeah.
gotta, like,
It's
But
like-
also screw spiders. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Like it's so interesting. Just like the first time that I played Skyrim, and I went through that, and I didn't think about the map markers. I was like, okay, I'll just go where the game tells me.
Yeah.
And if I had to think about it, if I first played Skyrim for the first time without any HUD, do you think I don't think I would get as much enjoyment out of it?
Well, that's what I'm saying is probably the biggest flaw of the game is that it's built around that
Yes.
having fun. Well,
Yeah.
Morrowind isn't, and I mean,
Wait.
just here's how I imagine it.
It's not fun.
No, I'm not saying that, but not trying to say that. Here's how I imagine it, right? Imagine while you're playing Skyrim and you have the map marker and it points to it. Where's your eye looking?
You're looking
while
at the map
walking?
marker,
You're looking at the
absolutely.
map. You're
Yeah.
not looking at the world. You're not. You're not
Exactly.
in the world. You're looking at the map marker. And then when you play a game when there's not a map marker, you're looking at the game world. You're focused on the game world. You're looking at, like, there's that tree there. There's that path there.
I think Fallout did a really good job with that.
Which one?
3 and New Vegas, I think they both did a decent job with hiding the map marker. I think
They weren't as noticeable
In
for
certain
sure.
parts.
Definitely
Yeah,
weren't
sure.
as noticeable.
But it's still there.
like when I first got out of the vault in Fallout 3, I was overwhelmed.
Okay, but
Oh, that's a great moment. That's
Yeah.
one of my favorite gaming moments.
I think the difference between something like Skyrim and something like Fallout New Vegas is that the writing is a little bit better in New Vegas, in my opinion.
Yeah,
And
Yes.
so that it's
Yeah.
more acceptable when you have something like a map marker because you just enjoy what you're hearing more. So you're focusing less on the map marker and more on this person told me to hear because this is an interesting character.
Obsidian
you know?
games are much more like you do a great deal of thinking sometimes
Yes,
too with the
absolutely.
dialogue. Like there's much more thinking.
I know you, like, Sean, don't hate me, but I know we've been talking about New Vegas and, like, how much of a great game it is. It still had those Bethesda glitches at the beginning. Do you remember when you first get shot and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
you wake up and the guy's head is rotating?
I feel like that was a flaw
That was
of
Bethesda.
Okay,
Oh, yeah,
that was
yeah,
a flaw
yeah,
of
of
Bethesda
course,
games.
I
You look
agree.
at Outer Worlds and it's like the same
Not
type
that
of
same
game.
problem.
There's a
It's
couple
like-
glitches, of course. There's a
No,
couple
but
AI.
No, I haven't run into any.
I didn't run into
have.
any glitch, and if you compare the amount of glitches in Outer Worlds
And I'm
to
sure
a
there are
Bethesda
some.
game, it's
It's minuscule. It's minuscule.
It's minuscule. It's lower than the average game that comes out.
Yep.
Like the average AAA game that comes out, it's lower. Like the amount of
That's what I'm
glitches
saying.
people are finding.
That speaks to my point earlier is that they sell broken games
Yeah.
and they expect their players to fix them.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
but Skyrim.
Fallout 4, straight up, that's how it was. Skyrim, it wasn't broken, had a lot of problems that got fixed later on, but that should not be the standard.
Just
That
look at
should
the
not be
unofficial
standard.
patches.
Skyrim wasn't like as
No,
broken per
PS3
se,
it
but
really
it had
was.
things in it
Yeah.
that were very questionable.
They-
like horses riding.
They just
vertical.
care about they just care
Going
about getting
vertical at walls.
It's all about deadlines. They care about getting the game out, not getting a complete game out.
The giant glitch in Skyrim where you got killed by a giant and you fly in the
Yeah.
air.
was
That's
funny,
so
though.
funny.
That's not
It's
a bad-
so
That's a
funny.
good glitch.
Okay,
I
the
know.
real problems though in Skyrim is I experienced a bunch of them. Are ones when literally quests
Quests
break.
break,
And you
right,
can't
yeah.
Exactly.
you can't finish them.
Exactly.
I
That's
actually
the worst
had that.
kind of
I
glitch.
actually had that.
It happened to me
in-
several times.
But I had that in Outer Worlds. I didn't tell you guys this. When I was trying to do Felix's side mission, it wouldn't let me do it.
Well, to some extent, no
Are you
game's
sure
perfect.
that's a glitch? Like,
Yeah,
maybe
I
it might
went
have-
to the spot.
Oh.
And
Did
it
you
was-
look it up on the forums and stuff?
Yeah, and I was like,
Okay.
I didn't want to
Well,
reload it. And
No game's
everything.
perfect, obviously.
Oh,
but
yeah. For
I think
sure.
if you compare them side by side, Outer Worlds has infinitely less problems at launch than any other Bethesda game does.
Yeah, I agree.
Like it's
It's
just,
also smaller though.
of course, definitely a way smaller game.
One Obsidian game we haven't really mentioned is KOTOR 2.
Mm.
And I feel like there can be said that Outer Worlds is very similar to KOTOR 2.
Oh, the game about Star Trek, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
KOTOR
2. Hold on. Let me give its full title for people who actually don't
Yeah.
know. It's called Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic 2.
Star Trek, Knights of the
No,
Old-
the Sith Lords. In KOTOR 2, it's a great Star Wars game, although its biggest problem was they had to like push the game out in like an extremely low amount of time, and it's very unfinished. It's like really bad, but a bunch of the modders put together, and it's called the Sith Lords Restored Content mod, and it kind of puts all the content that wasn't made together a huge chunk of content and fills in all the gaps and puts it together, and they program. And it's a fantastic game with the restored content mod.
It's free, correct? That mod.
Yeah, that mod.
Yeah.
But without the restored content mod, it's a really like unfinished game. But there is so much depth in that game because it's really, as far as I know, probably the biggest deconstruction or the best deconstruction of the Star Wars universe. Because I won't talk too much about it because this isn't a Star Wars podcast. But KOTOR 2, I'd love to talk about Star Wars, and I'll mention KOTOR 2 then again. But for me, KOTOR 2 was asking, what is the Force?
Yes.
In every Star Wars thing I've ever seen, nobody talks about that. But KOTOR 2 was like, hold on, what the fuck is the Force? And they dive into that so deeply, and you're like, what really is the Force? And like, you have characters like Kreia who are like trying to destroy the Force itself. It's a whole deconstruction of the Star Wars series, and I'm so glad that it exists.
Yeah.
Star Wars Phantom Menace talks about the Force. It's midi-chlorians.
Get the hell out of here. Let's call it George Lucas. You can go chill with him.
I don't want to talk more about Star Wars, but did anybody hear about George Lucas's sequel trilogy that he wanted? There was these things called the Wills, which apparently controlled the midi-chlorians and were supposed to be like the gods of the Star Wars universe, and they were supposed to be the antagonists of the new sequel trilogy, and like Luke was supposed to fight the Wills or something.
I mean,
Isn't that weird?
We'll talk
about that later, but
Isn't
that weird as
I don't
shit?
trust George Lucas anymore.
I want to get back to the whole modding thing in Bethesda. There are two things I want to say about modding.
Yeah, I definitely have something to say about that.
Fallout 4, there's a huge mod that takes place in Florida. This was like a year
I know what
ago.
you're talking. I know what you're talking.
It had like 1 million views on the
It is in
trailer.
Fallout 4. I remember that.
It was a free
Fan
mod, and it looked
Just look it up.
more impressive than Fallout 4.
It looked really.
Fallout 4
There was a mod. It wasn't an official
mod in
expansion.
Florida or something.
It wasn't. It was. I don't know if it was Florida, but I know what you're talking about.
But that brings me to the next point: is that when Bethesda was on their downhill,
Fallout
Miami.
yeah,
Miami. That's what it was. Yep.
when Bethesda was on their Fallout, they tried to get their most dedicated fans to pay for mods, and that pisses me off.
That's it. That's what I mean. I can't say it. It's a lot of people didn't see it coming, but it's because no one was paying attention. Because, to be fair, like they kind of took control of the media on what they wanted people to see.
That reminds me, some content creator did the same thing for Skyrim. They added this huge expansion to it.
There's a bunch of those, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of them for Skyrim.
I mean, this one specifically was about as big as Soul Sign.
Yeah, wasn't it like
It was huge.
Yeah, I
it
think
was
I
a
remember.
huge thing that just
There's still mods like that coming out. There's still mods like coming out for
like
Skyrim.
This one was under development for like a hot minute, and they
I think
included
I do
all new
remember
voice
something.
actors, all new
Yeah.
immersive dialogue.
I know what you're talking
new
about,
like
yep.
everything.
They're
Like, it
also
was-
doing that for New Vegas. It's
Yeah.
called Fallout: The Frontier.
Um,
It's supposed to be a huge mod coming out for New Vegas.
And that's a double-edged sword, is because it encourages fans to create stuff they love. But then, because of that, the company sees, well, fans are making really great stuff. Why should we release more when people are making it for free?
Because Skyrim and Fallout 3, they kind of evolved into this system where fans can create create content, and it was amazing. But then Bethesda tried to capitalize on it.
Yep, exactly.
If they made a game where it was for the modders to add on, it would have been super successful, right? Where they made kind of like a blank slate instead of
I disagree.
Instead
Okay,
of spending
maybe not-
money on like instead of us spending money on mods, what if they made a game that was like half baked and they released it like that? And they released it for like $20 or $10. You know how many, and like you know how much that would sell?
Do you mean Fallout 76?
That's still them.
But that's the $60 game.
It's still them trying to capitalize on the modders.
Absolutely.
They're like, I think
But
that's
people would
screwed
love
up.
that. It's basically like a program. It's like basically like
I don't know if people
Microsoft
would love
Word.
it, but I
made-
feel like for $20, people would
That's
be
not
less
even
upset.
That is something
that's
I
not
would
a
buy.
video game. That's a development system.
Okay, I would still buy it if someone was making me a free game.
There's a difference
It's
between
like practicing on.
Okay, but as
There's a
long as you
difference
don't market it as a game.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If Bethesda was like, here's a developmental system,
And
that
you
we're
can also
releasing.
play games. Like I feel like that would be amazing. And if they probably would have made like
if they released it for $10.
yeah, like a groundbreaking like, and you get
Well,
all the
problem
materials
is
that they have.
Bethesda's system does give a lot of room for modders, but it is also like this buggy, shitty system, and they're still using it. What's the game they're working on now? It's called Star something. I don't really give a fuck about
Outer Worlds
Bethesda.
2.
Look it up. It's called Bethesda. It's Starlink or something.
Yeah,
Starfield.
Sorry.
Right? Click on it. Let's check it out. I haven't heard really anything
They're
about
making
it.
Elder Scrolls 6.
Like,
I'll be honest, I don't know if I care anymore.
But like what I was gonna say is there's a difference between needing, like making a game that has mods accessible to enhance a game later and making a game that requires mods to keep its playability.
All right, well, there aren't really any games like that, but my biggest concern is that Bethesda is now a business first and a gaming company second.
ooh.
It used to be a gaming company first and a business second, but now it's just this muddled piece of crap that they're trying to profit off of every little piece of money they can grab.
I think that sums it
it's
up really
appalling.
well.
It's really
It does sum
appalling.
it up really well. I honestly don't think there's anything more to be said.
Trust
On
me.
that
I'm going to say anything else. It's just going to be like
that's
ranting
correct.
about Fallout
Obsidian
76.
good, Bethesda bad.
I mean, essentially, if
Make Bethesda great again.
I mean, if this video in a nutshell is Bethesda bad, Obsidian good.
Oh, the canvas bag thing.
Oh my god! I do not.
Oh, they literally poisoned someone with their
If you
helmets.
guys want to know about Fallout 76, there's thousands of videos.
If you like
on it.
this, we'll make it. I'll make something on it because I really hate it.
But I actually just thought of something. There are actually games, just like you described, where they're just kind of developers release it in the state and then let the community do stuff.
Not
Minecraft.
for $60.
Minecraft.
Yeah, Minecraft is really, that's a
like
great
the
point.
basic,
Great point. Yeah.
basic premise of that game. And there's tons of indie games that do that.
Yeah.
on stream.
But
There's a
they're
whole market
they're a
for that.
AAA
The
company.
indie game
They have a responsibility to be held to a higher standard.
Yeah.
Indie game list is never ending, and to sift through that and see which games do what is impossible.
Yes.
I don't. Yeah, but yeah, I don't want to be like screw Bethesda because for a time they were known as the great ones. You know, they were known as the
Trust me,
great company that a gaming company should compare to be like.
I hope they prove me wrong. I hope Bethesda comes back. Like
It's not
seriously.
it's not like screw Bethesda. It's
No.
do better.
Yeah, exactly.
better.
It's stop
I
making
don't know.
garbage. Stop selling us garbage.
I don't know. There's sort of this part of me that's like,
Maybe it needs to die.
screw you guys.
Yeah,
like
who knows?
like your company did shit and you guys need to feel the punishment and feel the rebuttal of the marketplace saying fuck your company. Like we need to stand together as gamers and be like, this shit isn't flying, your company's going out. And if they do create some game that is actually good,
It's not even that. If they stop Fallout 76, I will have hope for them. They just need
That's
to
weird.
let that die.
what about the people that actually enjoy Fallout 76? Because
They are
let's not discount
banning
them.
those people from Fallout 76. That's a huge thing. Is that guy who I was talking about earlier is
Right.
banned from Fallout 76?
So what about the people who actually enjoy this Fallout 76 game?
He did. He was one of the biggest supporters. He's played every Fallout game. He
Well,
made maps for a lot of those games.
I don't.
I
get it.
think that Bethesda, if they do shut it down, they will deliver something even greater.
I don't know, man.
Hopefully, if they shut it down. Not
They're-
like
I think they're kind of corrupt.
It's all about the bottom line now. It's not about the people they're actually selling the game to.
We got to see what their next move is with this
Yes,
Starfield.
I
game.
agree.
It's pretty much.
in
just-
Elder Scrolls 6.
Oh yeah, we got kind of just like
Whoa.
we got a zoom in of that. And
What
that
if
was
they
about
go
it.
completely Valve mode?
Speaking of, Valve made an interesting announcement today. Just real quick. Half-Life VR.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yep. It's called Half-Life Alex.
Yeah.
Does it,
Nice.
does it have to do with?
They haven't released a ton of details on it.
Okay,
But it's just confirmed that there's a VR Half-Life.
interesting.
That'll be
So,
interesting.
yeah.
I
Dude,
wonder
all
if it'll
the
continue the story though.
Apparently, it's its own little separate story from what we've been hearing. It's about Alex.
Oh,
it's
Alex
a-
Vance.
Yeah.
Wait, it's
Okay.
a game. It's a new game.
It's a game. It's not a new Fallout. Not Fallout. It's not, no, it's
You
not
heard
a
it.
new,
It's all about me, baby.
it's
Make
not a
sure you
new-
pick it up.
It's not a new.
Don't know
Half-Life
what's gonna
title.
have.
Ew.
All right.
Yeah.
So that is pretty interesting, but I do want to do a shout out to some other podcasters who
course.
contacted us. They're called Big Boys Rant. Their Twitter page is like @rant_big. We'll link
put it
their,
in the description.
We'll link their
description.
It'll be in the description.
YouTube channel in the description. But basically, they consider themselves Britain's greatest podcasters. I checked them out.
It's a bold claim. It's a bold claim.
It's a bold claim, but they kind of rant about stuff. They're funny. They're really relaxed when they talk. They're pretty enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched the first podcast, and they talked about British politics, correct? Yeah, that was like
yeah.
one of the biggest
They talked
things. It
about
was
stuff,
really interesting
But they
to
also
see.
talked about like just all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it was
If
really
you're interested,
interesting.
go give them a listen. Absolutely.
So yeah, we'll put their link in the description. They're
Absolutely.
gonna shout us out too. So, respect for them.
Absolutely.
They're the British versions of us.
Us podcasters are podcasters, so I support fellow
Us podcasters got to look out for each other.
Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely.
So yeah, we'll put their
Do
link
you
in
have
the
any final
description.
thoughts we want to cover on Bethesda?
Yeah, sure. What
Should
David?
we do the
what
classic
what
go
you
around the
gotta
table?
say?
So
Classic go around.
I think we should say our favorite game from Bethesda as well. You know, just give them
Interesting.
respect
Very
from
interesting.
what they used to be. But the last thought I have on Bethesda is there is some hope. There is some hope with them. I feel like they can make a return. I do. I feel they just gotta listen.
David, I appreciate people like you who still have that.
I know, right? But they did. One thing we didn't talk about is the Dishonored games.
They
It's not-
didn't make those; they published them.
But that's what I'm saying. Is
They
that
also
like,
published Doom games.
They're
yeah.
associated
That's
with that.
actually
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
that's actually an argument that a lot of people have now is Bethesda should just stop making games and be publishers because the games that they publish are really good.
That's what they did
Games of
with
Dishonored.
Fallout,
They
basically.
need to decide.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was talking about earlier. Pulling a Valve, like just
Yeah.
stop
Yeah.
making games.
They have to decide whether or not they want to be the business or be the game.
Because Dishonored 1 is a really solid game. And again, the opening
True,
of
very
Dishonored
true.
is
I love
really
Dishonored
yeah,
1.
it's a
Dishonored's
great
excellent.
game.
Very
It's
good
it's
Two's pretty good too. If you
the
guys
environment of Dishonored is it kind of reminds me a little bit of BioShock, like Infinite to be exact. And it's just the RPG elements and the story is actually kind of interesting to me. But it's not my favorite Bethesda game. My favorite Bethesda game is Fallout 76. The story
took
does
mine. God damn it, David.
no, but it's Skyrim. I don't need to say more.
That's fair. Yeah. For me, I'm gonna honestly go with Fallout 3. I had such a good time. If I can remember one specific point of Fallout 3, so I remember like the superhero and then like the giant ant costume mission.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but whenever I think of Fallout 3, I think of that. I just has such a unique tone that I had never played a game like that before
when
played
I
it.
think of Fallout 3, the first thing that pops into my head is the radio, like the 50s.
Oh,
music,
yeah.
as you're just like running around
Oh, my
shooting
God,
super mutants.
yes.
Megaton, the town where you
Megaton,
go
oh
to.
my god, yes.
And it's like
Watching it blow up from
like
a
the
distance away.
Mr.
Yeah.
Burt character's like, yo, this town of people,
They suck.
like,
Blow it up.
I'm gonna give you a shit ton of caps, like money, if you blow this town up.
Yeah.
And you're like, but there's kids, and he's like,
So
and you're like, holy shit, this game is like,
yeah,
this game is like for real. Like
That,
this
like,
is a game about
kind
morality.
of like inspired me to like what choice in a video game is.
There-
You know that very
I
much.
love
like,
that.
Fallout
I love
3
that
was so
beginning.
weird now that I think about it.
It
Wasn't
was.
there vampires and like
Yes.
and there was the
I mean, they weren't actual vampires,
Yeah,
but
no.
they were like, they were basically like people that
Yeah.
feasted on blood, but they weren't like necessarily evil. It
yeah.
was just kind of their thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say Fallout 3 for me.
I would agree with that. Fallout 3 or Skyrim. I can't really choose between them. Even though I like Fallout New Vegas better than Fallout 3, Fallout 3 was very magical and Skyrim was very magical. I can't really put. It's hard to put it into words, but Fallout 3, I think it's just a fantastic game.
Do you
Very
think
unique.
do you think that it's your because I would say New Vegas was yours. You talk so much about
Oh
that
yeah, I
game.
just said Fallout New Vegas is better than Fallout 3.
But
without a
no,
doubt.
I were talking about. I mean, technically, it is a Bethesda game, but
No, it's an Obsidian.
I say I
game.
consider New Vegas more of Obsidian's baby
yeah.
than I do.
Okay,
Bethesda's.
that's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, if I had the choice, I'd choose New Vegas over 3.
But Fallout 3 definitely was very magical, and I'm really connected to that game
Yeah.
and the world. And,
So unique.
yeah, like I just have so many good memories of the like the funny song they have playing on the radio, like "Let's Go Sonny."
Oh, yeah.
and you're shooting super mutants with the hunting rifle.
Not even just like the in-game stuff, but like that is one of the box arts for a game that I will always remember what it
Wasn't
looks like.
Liam
you know?
Neeson the dad?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, he was.
The game's 10 out of 10.
I will find you.
But you're actually finding him. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
Um,
I loved that kind of story that they had in that game.
was
I don't know.
excellent.
I like that story.
yeah. It was.
I like the whole
design.
vault
Comparatively
section that they
to
have.
Fallout 4, where you're the father or mother, you're
It's just-
you're the son or daughter.
They just didn't do it well. Fallout 3
Yeah.
did it well. And like you didn't feel like finding your dad is a lot less of like a huge like importance than finding your son is.
your little kid. That
That's
was a
your
baby.
little kid.
So anybody that's playing that game has to have a father, even if they passed or run away. That's not my
Right.
personal business.
But-
But no one, not everyone's a dad.
It's kind of impossible to exist without a dad.
Yeah.
Even if
That's
if
what I'm
he's
saying,
not alive,
yeah.
you don't know who he is, but he still exists.
You have a dad.
But it is possible to not have a son. Like, you should be able to choose not to have a son. What if you don't want to have a son in Fallout 4? What if you don't?
Well-
And in Fallout 3, if you don't want to find your dad, you don't have to.
Let's hope there's a
You
mod
can't kill
to
him
get
and
rid
shoot
of
him.
that whole crap in Fallout 4. I'm sure there is.
Oh, I'm sure.
Mod
Yeah,
is
there
speak up.
definitely is. There's a bunch of mods in Fallout 4 that make it a little bit better. Fix
Little
the
bit.
stupid-ass dialogue. But in Fallout 3, it's just a great game. And Skyrim, I love that game. I spent so many hours. I really felt like that was a world that I wanted to explore and really dive deep into. And I really felt like I was in that world. And there's so much stuff to do in that game. It's a brilliant game. And I feel like, even though I do have much love for Morrowind and Oblivion, I do have to say it's Bethesda's magnum opus. That's my opinion. But I just love Fallout. I can't decide. I'm not gonna compare them.
We could come back to you in a second if you want to make a final
No, I
decision.
I don't have a final decision. They're both great games in their own right. Alex.
Fair enough.
All right. I'm pulling the Skyrim card here only
We
because
need at least one Skyrim.
yeah.
card,
I have.
David
I have
was
good
a Skyrim.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we need to have the table divided.
I
so
wish there was some guy over here, some
I-
non-existent guy who likes Morrowind the best.
Actually, my
We're
favorite is
gonna edit him in.
Daggerfall.
Daggerfall is great. Couldn't play it for too long because it's
Isn't
too
that
old.
which Bethesda game is considered like one of the biggest maps of all time? I think it's like the first or second Elder Scrolls. It's like-
Daggerfall is huge, and it's also like a lot of it is randomly generated.
yeah, that
Oh well, yeah, but you can randomly generate anything in Minecraft.
A lot of the
Also
quests in Skyrim are randomly
But yeah,
generated.
I have a
too.
lot of good memories with Skyrim. I have memories with my family with Skyrim. I have memories even with my sister, who doesn't even think about video games anymore. She played that game when it came out. I have memories of when the Hearthfire DLC came out, and I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
"Oh, I'm gonna build my own goddamn house." And I was
I'm gonna get a child.
that was
I was
sweet.
really
That was
excited,
sweet.
bro.
You have a
Like,
family, you
even
can
though
buy,
it was
like,
just
this-
a bunch of grinding, like it was a bunch of grinding, but still like building your house and customizing it.
And then-
that was fun. And
nice
I was
to have a
actually,
choice.
you know, I'm gonna like people disagree with me, but I was really happy with the Dragonborn DLC.
Yeah, I
Well,
like Dragon.
I enjoyed it. I
Ball,
did
yeah.
enjoy it. Yeah.
and the game at the time where you're already kind of immersed in it, and you come out with like this guy is the first Dragonborn, and you go through that whole spiel, and the final fight with him was actually really fun.
Yeah, it was a
finally
dragon. It was
have
two or it was a dragon and then him.
Yeah.
I think, or something
Yeah.
like that.
It was really freaking cool, and the idea that you got to ride dragons, like that was the whole thing. You
That
got the
was
trailer of
pretty
this dude riding a dragon, looking badass as hell, and you're just like, I'm gonna get that.
Dawnguard was cool too.
Yeah, I love Dawnguard.
But also,
Dawnguard was cool as well. The only problem with it is that there's so many spells that I really wanted as a vampire to be just normal spells. Like, specifically the telekinesis one, that was one of my favorite spells.
By the
Picking
way-
up people and throwing
Oh,
them.
yes.
I know we talked about
Which is why you
mods,
get mods for
but-
that,
but-
which I
but-
did.
But the Skyrim magic mods are so much fun.
Oh
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
But
they are.
I want to mention something about Skyrim. What is actually kind of genius that they did was cast you as the Dragonborn, because you really do kind of feel like this god incarnate in Skyrim. Like,
Yeah.
it's really intertwined with
Yeah.
the story too. Like, you really feel like the Dragonborn. I
You do
think
feel
it
like a
was genius
force in that
choice.
game.
You
like,
do.
oh shit, that's the fucking Dragonborn coming to
You
whoop my
feel
ass.
like
let's
the
fucking leave.
godliest character in Skyrim. You do feel like that.
That's
and the
where
stories
most of the memes
put-
come from.
put around that.
Dragonborn. Like, you're the freaking Dragonborn, but you touch that potato off of that, like, cart that that person's done, you're toast, buddy.
I'm the strongest person in this whole world.
Steals potato, gets fucked.
You violated the law.
It just occurred to me how well they did that plot, and with how you feel in the
Yeah.
game.
It just sucks that like, I hope there's a new Skyrim. I hope there's a not like Skyrim,
Skyrim 2, Electric Boogaloo.
No, but like I hope I get that feeling again from
Okay.
Bethesda.
I'm worried that it's
Yeah,
going to
I
come with
really do.
microtransactions.
Here's a point that I'd like to end off on then. I feel like, for me, Bethesda's dead. And I feel like the biggest reminder was Outer Worlds. Like, this
Yeah.
feeling that we love from Bethesda, we can get from Outer Worlds, and we can get it from other games. I mean, this is the time for other people to step up, take what they love from Bethesda, get rid of the shit, and make new games. Because Bethesda's, they've shown that they're not capable.
Well, here's the thing.
They've shown that I don't trust them. I don't trust them as a business. I don't trust them as game developers. I don't care if they die out. I honestly don't. Let's love the games that came out, Morrowind and Daggerfall and Oblivion and Skyrim, but let's move on. Let's look to the future. That's my ending point.
My only thing is, if they were dead, then we wouldn't still be talking about it, because, you know, at this point we're talking about it because they're bad. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Well, shit.
So,
I mean,
I can only
becoming bad.
be like the rest of us and
They've
hope
been-
that they're gonna fix whatever they're doing. Like I
got no
said, we
hope.
got to see what step they're gonna take with this new game coming out. supposedly.
When?
Yeah, Lord knows when. I like how they announced this game like before, like they even like
Was this 2 years ago?
hinted at Elder Scrolls.
I'm pretty sure that they announced Elder Scrolls 6 and Starfield like 2 years ago.
At least
now.
Elder Scrolls 6 was a while ago.
I'm gonna look that
That-
up just real quick as a final note. Let me Elder Scrolls 6. It's like
I
the
guess
first
I'm-
thing.
It was announced at
Probably-
like E3 2 years ago.
I'm probably the only one here without hope. I'm just like, let the fuckers die.
I have my point once you get over to me. I'll have my little spiel.
I think, but they've done some really good things though. Bethesda.
Oh, yeah, it's
they
not-
hired. I'm pretty sure they hired a modder as like full time, like to
Oh,
work.
wow,
with them.
nice. Almost every gaming companies did that at some point.
Okay, cool.
That's how Portal was created.
I'm not
Yeah.
devaluing their past works.
Yeah,
There is now someone to take up the mantle that they can no longer carry.
I wish we could get like an interview with Todd Howard or something.
Todd, if you're listening,
So they're not even gonna say anything about about Elder Scrolls 6 until Starfield is out. It
But-
specifically said that's
But
what
when
Todd Howard.
when was it announced?
And that RPG's not done until 2020 or 2021.
But when was it? Like which E3? Do you remember?
So they announced Elder Scrolls 6 back in 2018.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It feels longer.
It does feel
because
a lot
Bethesda
longer.
has done nothing notable since besides Fallout
Well,
76.
that practically is a year and a half.
Besides
ago.
just be controversial in the
Wait,
news, yeah.
what if the reason why Fallout 76 is so shitty is because they're working on Elder Scrolls Skicks?
Okay, do you know
Sticks.
do you know
Sticks.
do you know that
Death sticks.
do you know what the deal is with Fallout 76? Is that it's not the main branch of Bethesda working on it. They gave it to a relatively newer branch of Bethesda.
Sounds like Anthem.
It's a small team, and they had no idea what to do with it. So that's completely on Bethesda. That's not.
Well, they still
I can't
release
even
not
it.
for
fault the
debate.
people who actually
Yes,
did
they
it, 'cause
did.
If they're new, then like fuck you're new, whatever. Like,
Well, they shouldn't have given it
They
to
shouldn't have given
a
it
lot
to
of
the first place.
unexperienced people in the first place.
Stop
for sure.
mistreating the Fallout franchise, you fucking assholes.
And with that note,
Stop mistreating the franchise.
All right. So, yeah, I think we talked about a lot of the stuff.
Covered our
I'm glad,
bases.
I'm glad we had this podcast. Like I said, these are some of my favorite games. I'm sure you guys all have fond
Oh
memories
yeah,
with
very
them.
very fun
Yeah,
memories.
for sure.
So, let's close it out. I'm Sean,
I'm Alex.
David.
Kyle.
and this is the Guys with Weird podcast. We'll see you next time.